Ambassador Kim stood at the entrance of the Galactic Council chamber. His blue skin gleamed under the bright lights. The room was huge, with tall curved walls that reached up to a glass dome. Stars twinkled above through the clear ceiling. 27. Seats formed a circle, each filled by a different alien species from across the galaxy. All eyes turned to him. Some had many eyes, others just one. Some weren't eyes at all, but sensing organs that looked nothing like anything found on Earth. The talking stopped. Silence filled the room. Ambassador Kim, announced the council leader, an old being with skin that looked like stone. You have returned from the unexplored system. Tell us what you found. Kim walked to the center of the room. His long robes brushed against the polished floor. Honored council members, I have much to report about the third planet of the yellow star. He touched a small device on his wrist. A 3D image of Earth appeared, floating in the air. Blue oceans, white clouds, and green-brown landmasses spun slowly. This world calls itself Earth. The main species calls themselves humans. Whispers filled the room. Some council members leaned forward with interest. Others looked worried. Are they intelligent? Asked a council member whose body was mostly transparent. Very, Kim replied. They have developed technology at an impressive rate. They have already spread to other bodies in their system. Kim changed the image. Now Mars appeared, with its dome cities and tunnels beneath the red surface. Then Europa, with underwater bases beneath its ice shell. This is not possible, said another council member, whose head was shaped like a flower. Our records show this species only discovered electricity a few hundred years ago. That is correct, Kim said. Their advancement has been unusually fast. The council leader's eyes narrowed. Are they dangerous? Kim paused. They are surprising. He still remembered his first sight of the human space station. It wasn't beautiful like the ships of the Stellar Federation. It was blocky, patched in places, clearly built in sections over time, yet it worked. It shouldn't have worked so well, but it did. When my ship arrived in their system, I expected fear or aggression. Instead, they welcomed me. Their leader, Commander Park, invited me aboard their station immediately. The image changed to show Commander Park. She stood straight in a simple blue uniform. Her black hair was pulled back from her face. Her eyes looked directly ahead, calm and confident. Kim remembered their first meeting clearly. He had prepared for panic, for weapons pointed at him. Instead, the human had reached out her hand in their traditional greeting gesture. We've been expecting contact from beyond our system, she had said. Her voice was steady. Though I admit, we didn't anticipate such a formal delegation. They were not surprised? Asked a council member with 6 arms. No, Kim said. They have been sending signals into space for generations, hoping for contact. They have prepared for this moment. Kim showed the council images from Earth's history. Cities destroyed by bombs, lands covered by rising waters, terrible plagues that killed millions. Their history is violent, Kim explained. They have fought 3 planet-wide wars. Their climate changed drastically. Diseases nearly wiped them out more than once. The council members looked troubled. Many species that faced such challenges had destroyed themselves before reaching the stars, yet they survived, Kim continued. Each time they rebuilt, they adapted, they created new solutions. They changed themselves and their world. He showed images of green cities rising from deserts, artificial coral reefs teeming with life, people working together to build the first Mars colony. Your species adapts to conditions that would exterminate. Others, Kim had told Commander Park during his visit, the council will find this intriguing. He remembered how she had smiled at that, not a smile of pride, but of simple acknowledgement. Humans knew they were tough. They had needed to be. Humans evolved on what we would classify as a death world, Kim told the council. High gravity, extreme weather, thousands of diseases, many predators. Their bodies can survive in conditions that would kill most of us. They can go days without water, weeks without food. They heal quickly from injuries. Their minds solve problems in unusual ways. Do they want contact with us? Asked the council. Leader Kim nodded. Commander Park asked about Earth joining the Galactic Council. This caused an uproar. Council members spoke all at once. Some stood from their seats. Impossible. They are too young. We must study them more. Kim waited for quiet to return. I was also surprised by their request. I expected only to make first contact, not discuss membership. He thought again of Commander Park's calm face when she made the request. She hadn't seemed demanding or entitled. She had simply seen an opportunity and taken it. "What did you tell them?" asked the council leader. "I said that such decisions are made by the full council, not by one ambassador," Kim replied. "I explained that the process usually takes many years." "And their response?" Kim smiled slightly. Commander Park said, "Humans are known for beating expectations. We look forward to the challenge." The council chamber grew quiet as members considered this. Finally, the council leader spoke. "Ambassador Kim, you will return to Earth. Tell these humans we will send an assessment team. We will evaluate whether they are ready to join us." Kim bowed. "Yes, council leader." As he turned to leave, he wondered what the council would make of humans when they truly got to know them. One thing was certain: it would not be boring. 3. Large ships landed at the international spaceport outside New Seoul. They were smooth and silver, unlike the blocky human ships. They made almost no sound as they touched down on the landing pads. Director Lee was the first to step out. She was tall with dark purple skin that shimmered slightly in Earth's sunlight. 6 other aliens followed her, each from a different council species. They wore simple white uniforms with the Galactic Council symbol, a spiral of stars. "Welcome to Earth," said Commander Park, who waited with a small group of human officials. "We've prepared everything according to your instructions, Director." Lee nodded. Her large eyes blinked slowly as she looked around at the blue sky. "Your atmosphere is intense. So much oxygen." "You'll adjust to it soon," Commander Park said. "Or we can provide breathing assistance if needed." "That won't be necessary," Director Lee replied. "Adaptation is part of our job." The testing facility had been built specifically for this visit. It contained rooms that could simulate different environments, training areas, and medical labs. 500 human volunteers waited inside: soldiers, athletes, scientists, and ordinary people from all walks of life. On the first day, the aliens tested human physical abilities. They started with basic measurements: strength, speed, endurance. The aliens used small devices that took readings without touching the humans. Director Lee stared at her datapad, then checked it again. "There must be an error in our equipment." She turned to her assistant. "The endurance readings can't be right. Run the tests again." They did. The results were the same. "Even your average humans can run for hours," Director Lee said to Commander Park. "Your elite athletes can continue physical activity long after most species would collapse." A human soldier lifted weights. That made the aliens' eyes widen. A farmer showed grip strength that could bend metal. A young mother demonstrated balance that seemed impossible for a species that walked on only 2 legs. The Montari desert dwellers are famous for their ability to travel days without rest, Director Lee said. "Your humans exceed their capabilities." On the second day, they tested pain tolerance. Volunteers placed their hands in ice water, received small electric shocks, or endured pressure on sensitive areas. "They're still going," whispered one of the alien testers, as a volunteer showed no reaction to a stimulus that would have most species crying out. "Their pain tolerance surpasses the warrior caste of Delphus Prime," Director Lee noted, "a species specifically bred for battle for 10,000 years. The council representatives looked worried as they compared notes. On the third day, they tested intelligence and problem-solving. Humans faced puzzles, logic problems, and creative challenges. They didn't always find the perfect solution, but they never gave up. They tried approaches no alien would consider. When faced with a box that needed opening, most species would try to find the key or solve the lock mechanism. Humans tried that too, but if it didn't work, they might smash the box, melt it, cut it apart, or find some unexpected way around the problem. "They don't follow expected patterns," one alien observer said. "It makes them unpredictable." On the 4th day, Dr. Han gave a presentation to the assessment team. She was Earth's leading expert on comparing human biology to alien life forms. "You're confused by our abilities," she said to the room full of aliens. "Let me explain." She showed images of early humans hunting on the African savanna. We evolved as persistence hunters on a planet full of dangers. Our ancestors didn't have the biggest teeth or the sharpest claws. We weren't the strongest or the fastest. The screen changed to show humans tracking animals across harsh terrain. What we could do was keep going. We could sweat to cool down and continue running when other animals had to stop. We could think and plan and work together. Dr. Han showed more images. Humans surviving in deserts, Arctic regions, mountains and jungles. We don't just endure, we adapt and overcome. It's our defining trait. When we face a new problem, we find a solution. Then we teach that solution to others and build on it. Director Lee listened carefully. Your history shows great capacity for violence and conflict. Yes, Dr. Han admitted. We fought each other for resources, for land, for beliefs. We nearly destroyed ourselves more than once. Yet here you are, Director Lee said, united enough to meet us as one people. We learned, Dr. Han replied simply. Not perfectly, not completely, but enough to survive our own nature. That night, the assessment team held a private meeting on their ship. Their conversation was encrypted to prevent humans from listening. They're too dangerous, said one representative, a small being with 4 arms. Their strength, their endurance, their adaptability, they could become a threat to the entire council. But think of what they could add to our collective knowledge, argued another whose body was mostly transparent. Their unique problem-solving abilities, their resilience. Director Lee listened to all sides before speaking. The real question is not if they are dangerous. All evidence suggests they are. The question is, would they be more dangerous as allies or as outsiders? The debate continued late into the Earth night. Some argued that humans should be isolated, contained to their solar system for the safety of all. Others said that such action would only delay the inevitable. Humans would continue to advance and eventually develop their own means of faster-than-light travel. If we reject them, Director Lee said finally, we make them potential enemies. If we accept them, we must be prepared for the changes they will bring. Neither choice is without risk. As dawn broke over Earth, humans waited anxiously for the aliens' decision. They had no way of knowing that across the galaxy, the full Galactic Council was now receiving Director Lee's initial report. Human capabilities exceed all standard metrics. They represent both unprecedented opportunity and potential threat. Recommendation: further testing required. Final note: whatever the Council decides, humanity will shape the future of our galaxy, whether we welcome them or not. The Galactic Council was in the middle of a heated debate. The Great Hall echoed with voices from 27 different species. Some spoke with sounds, others with light patterns or smell signals that their translators converted for others to understand. Representative Choi stood at the center of the chamber. He was 8 feet tall with red-scaled skin that looked like armor. The Varaxians were known as the fiercest warriors in the galaxy. These humans want to join our council too quickly, Choi said, his voice deep and rumbling. They must prove themselves worthy through the trials of ascension. The hall grew quiet. The trials of ascension were ancient tests that few even mentioned anymore. They had been created when the council first formed, thousands of years ago. Back then, every new species had to pass them to join. But they were so difficult that eventually the council stopped requiring them. No species has passed all 3 trials in over 4,000 years, Ambassador Kim said. Many have died trying. Representative Choi's mouth formed what passed for a smile among his kind. Exactly. If humans are as special as they claim, let them prove it. When word reached Earth, the human leaders were divided. Some wanted to refuse the challenge, to find another way to join the council. Others argued they should accept. In the end, they needed a volunteer. Captain Moon stepped forward. She was not the biggest or strongest human. At 35 years old, she had served in special forces for 15 years. She had survived conditions that killed others. She had been chosen not just for physical strength, but for her quick thinking and calm under pressure. I'll do it, she said simply, when brought before the world leaders. You understand the risks? Commander Park asked. No one knows exactly what the trials contain. They're different for each species. Captain Moon nodded. Someone has to show them what humans can do. The first trial took place on an airless moon orbiting a gas giant. The testing chamber was a large transparent dome. Inside, Captain Moon stood wearing only a thin protective suit. The environmental trial tests adaptability, explained the Council observer. Your environment will change rapidly. You must survive. For 6 hours. From observation platforms above, aliens from across the galaxy watched. Representative Choi stood with his arms crossed, expecting quick failure. The trial began. The temperature plunged to 60 degrees C. Frost formed on the inside of the dome. Captain Moon's breath came out in thick, white clouds. She began moving, keeping her blood flowing, using techniques developed by human cultures that lived in Arctic regions. Most species go into shock at this point, one alien observer whispered. Their systems shut down. After an hour, the temperature began to rise. It climbed past normal Earth temperatures, past what humans considered extreme heat. It reached 150 degrees, hot enough to cook food, to make water boil instantly. Captain Moon was drenched in sweat. Her suit helped some, but it was her body's natural cooling system that kept her alive. She focused on her breathing, on staying conscious as the air shimmered with heat around her. Representative Choi leaned forward. The last 3 champions died during the heat phase. But Moon kept going. When the 6 hours ended, she was still standing, though barely. Medical teams rushed in to help her recover. Impossible, muttered Representative Choi. Pure luck. The next trial will finish her. The second trial came 3 days later after Captain Moon had recovered. This time she entered a sealed metal chamber. The problem-solving trial tests intelligence under pressure, the observer explained. The chamber will slowly fill with toxic gas. You must find a way out or neutralize the threat. The door sealed behind her with a heavy thud. Inside was a simple room with various objects and tools scattered around. As soon as the trial began, green gas started seeping in through vents in the ceiling. Most species approached this test the same way. They tried to block the vents, or find a hidden exit, or signal for help. For thousands of years, the expected solution was to find the hidden mask that would filter the air. Captain Moon examined everything quickly. She saw the pattern others had followed before. But instead of looking for the mask, she began taking apart her suit. "What is she doing?" Representative Choi asked, watching from the safe side of a window. Captain Moon removed filtration components from her suit. Then she found chemicals among the scattered objects. Working quickly as the gas reached her knees, then her waist, she built a simple chemical reaction. "She's destroying her protective gear," one observer noted with confusion. But then something unexpected happened. The device she created began to change the gas itself, neutralizing it. The green color faded. The gas was becoming harmless. When the chamber door opened, Captain Moon walked out, breathing normally. The council observers checked their readings. Twice. "She didn't just survive the gas," one said in amazement. "She changed its chemical structure. No one has ever attempted that solution." The final trial was combat. It took place in a large arena with thousands of spectators from across the galaxy. Captain Moon would face the Varaxian champion, Representative Choi's own offspring. The Varaxian stood 7 feet tall, with muscles that looked like they were made of stone. Captain Moon looked tiny beside him. "This isn't fair," Ambassador Kim protested. "The size difference alone." "Are humans withdrawing from the challenge?" Representative Choi asked with a sneer. Captain Moon shook her head. "I'm ready." The fight began. The Varaxian was stronger and had a natural armor that Moon lacked. His first blow sent her flying across the arena. She got up, blood trickling from her mouth. The alien crowd watched in fascination. Most expected a quick end. But Moon kept moving, kept finding ways to dodge, to use the Varaxian's strength against him. Every time she was knocked down, she got back up. Even when her arm was clearly broken, she continued fighting. The Varaxian began to slow down. He wasn't used to long fights. Most of his opponents fell quickly. "What's happening to her?" an alien observer asked as Moon's fighting seemed to become more intense despite her injuries. "Second wind," explained Commander Park, who watched nervously from the sidelines. Humans can tap into emergency reserves of energy when pushed to their limits. After nearly an hour of fighting, the unthinkable happened. The mighty Varaxian champions stumbled from exhaustion. Captain Moon, bloody and broken, but still standing, delivered the final strike that ended the match. The arena fell silent, then erupted in sounds of disbelief. Representative Choi stood frozen in shock. In the center of the arena, Captain Moon remained standing just long enough to be declared the winner. Then she collapsed as medical teams rushed to her side. 2 days later, when she had recovered enough to walk, Captain Moon entered the Galactic Council chamber. Every member stood as she passed, the traditional sign of respect for one who had passed the trials. Even Representative Choi bowed his head slightly. "The humans have earned their place," he said, the words clearly difficult for him. For the first time in 4,000 years, the ancient ceremonial words were spoken. "The trials are complete. The worthy have ascended." The grand ceremony to welcome Earth to the Galactic Council was almost ready. The Great Hall had been decorated with symbols from all 28 member species. Earth would be the 28th. Human representatives had arrived from every continent, wearing their best clothes. Captain Moon stood at the front, still, showing some bruises from the trials but standing tall. Just as the council leader rose to begin the ceremony, an aide rushed in and whispered in his ear. The leader's skin paled to a sickly grey color. "The ceremony must wait," he announced. "We have received an emergency signal from the outer systems." The room filled with confused murmurs. Commander Park approached Ambassador Kim. "What's happening?" Before he could answer, the large viewing screen at the front of the hall activated. It showed a star map of the galaxy. At the very edge, red dots were appearing. "Long-range sensors have detected something approaching from the galactic rim," the council leader explained, his voice shaking slightly. "Something we hoped never to see again." An older council member stood up. "It cannot be them, they were destroyed." "The sensors do not lie," the leader replied. "The Void Harbingers have returned." The room erupted in panic. Several alien representatives began making high-pitched noises of distress. Others stood frozen in shock. Ambassador Kim turned to Commander Park. "The Void Harbingers are an ancient enemy. They nearly destroyed the Council 50,000 years ago. We thought they were gone forever." The council leader called for quiet. "We must prepare our defenses. The ceremony will continue when this threat is addressed." But in the days that followed, it became clear that the council was not prepared for this enemy. Reports came in from outer worlds, entire populations wiped out within hours of Harbinger ships arriving. They use biological weapons unlike anything we have seen, Director Lee explained during an emergency meeting. The weapons target specific genetic patterns. Most species are affected within minutes of exposure. The humans watched recordings from attacked worlds. The bioweapons appeared as a fine mist that spread through the air. Those affected simply collapsed as their internal organs liquefied. "Our defenses are not working," said Representative Choi, now pale with worry. "The Harbinger's technology has advanced while we enjoyed peace for thousands of years. Our weapons cannot penetrate their shields." Each day brought news of another world lost. The Harbingers moved steadily toward the center of Council space. Fear spread faster than the enemy ships. Then a Harbinger scout ship was detected, heading toward the Sol system, toward Earth. "We must evacuate your people," Ambassador Kim told Commander Park. "Your world is directly in their path." "No," Commander Park replied firmly. "We will defend our home." Earth's combined military forces prepared as best they could, though they knew their weapons were primitive compared to the Harbingers. When the scout ship arrived, it deployed its bioweapon over a small city in the southern hemisphere. The council representatives watched from orbit, expecting another tragedy. But something strange happened. "Some humans are getting sick," reported Dr. Han from the surface. "But they're not dying, and many aren't affected at all." Hours passed, then days. The bioweapon that had destroyed entire alien populations was making some humans ill with flu-like symptoms, but they were recovering. "This is impossible," Director Lee said, watching the medical data. "No species has ever shown resistance to Harbinger bioweapons." Dr. Han worked non-stop in her laboratory, studying blood samples from affected and unaffected humans. After 3 days, she requested an emergency council meeting. "We figured it out," she said, showing microscopic images of human blood cells. The Harbinger bioweapon works by attacking specific cellular structures, but human cells are different. Some of us have natural immunity, and others can fight off the infection. The council members stared in disbelief. "Their genetic structure adapts to the pathogen," Dr. Han continued. "Our immune systems evolved fighting thousands of terrestrial diseases. Earth has more pathogens than most habitable worlds. Our bodies are used to adapting to new threats." She showed more images of modified human antibodies attacking the Harbinger bioweapon components. "We're not just resistant," she explained. "We can weaponize our adaptation against them. We've already developed a countermeasure using human antibodies." Director Lee looked at the humans with new understanding. "There is an ancient prophecy among my people," she said slowly. "It speaks of defenders who would come from a harsh world when the great enemy returned. We always imagined they would be beings of energy or light. We never imagined they would look like you." Commander Park stepped forward. "The Harbinger scout ship is still in orbit around Earth. We believe it's sending data back to their main fleet about why their weapon failed. We don't have much time before they develop something that can harm us too." She activated a display showing a battle plan. "We need to take the fight to them. A small team could board their mothership and deploy our countermeasure directly into their life support systems." Representative Choi shook his head. "Suicide. Their ships are heavily defended. No one has ever successfully boarded a Harbinger vessel. No one has ever had a bioweapon that works against them either," Commander Park pointed out. "We can do this, but we need your help to reach their fleet." The council debated for hours. Many thought the plan was too risky, too aggressive. The council had always been cautious, preferring defense to attack. "If we wait, more worlds will fall," Captain Moon said, speaking up for the first time. "You've seen what humans can do when challenged. Let us fight for you." The council was divided. Some were willing to try anything. Others feared the humans almost as much as the Harbingers. "What if we give them our technology, and they turn on us later?" one member whispered. "What if we don't, and the Harbingers destroy us all taboo?" another replied. Finally, the council leader called for a vote. By the narrowest margin in council history, they approved Commander Park's plan. As the meeting ended, Ambassador Kim approached Commander Park. "My people have a saying, fear the quiet ones, for when they finally speak, mountains move. We never understood what humans truly were until now." Commander Park watched as Captain Moon began assembling her strike team. "You haven't seen anything yet," she said. "The massive fleet gathered near the Epsilon sector, just beyond the reach of Harbinger sensors. Over 2,000 ships from all council worlds formed protective circles around the command vessels. It was the largest military gathering in council history. Human ships joined the fleet too. They were smaller and less advanced than the alien vessels. Their hulls were patched in places. Their weapons were simple. But they moved in ways the council ships did not expect. Quick, unpredictable patterns that made them difficult to track. On the command ship, Commander Park stood with the council war leaders. Captain Moon and her small team prepared for their mission in the launch bay below. They would take a modified stealth shuttle to infiltrate the Harbinger mothership. "The plan is too risky," Representative Choi said, watching the human team. "They will never succeed. They passed your trials," Director Lee reminded him. "Perhaps you should trust them now." The fleet moved forward together toward the Harbinger position. As they approached, strange energy waves washed over their ships. "Communication systems are failing," reported a council technician. "The Harbingers are jamming all signals." Council ships began drifting out of formation. Without their advanced communication systems, they couldn't coordinate their movements. Confusion spread through the fleet, but the human ships maintained perfect formation. Light flashes blinked from their hulls. Colored panels flipped up and down in patterns. "What are they doing?" asked an alien admiral. "Manual signaling," Commander Park explained. "Flags, lights, and visual codes. Our navies used these methods for centuries before we had electronic communications." The human ships moved as one, protecting the path for Captain Moon's stealth shuttle. The council ships tried to follow their lead. Inside the shuttle, Captain Moon and her team of 6 prepared. Their equipment Each carried containers of the modified human antibodies that Dr. Han had developed. They wore light armor that would let them move quickly. Remember, Moon told her team, we must reach their central bioweapon control systems. Everything else is secondary. The shuttle slipped past the outer Harbinger ships. The mothership loomed ahead, a massive dark structure that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. It was 20 times larger than the biggest council vessel. How will we find our way inside that thing? Asked one team member. Moon displayed a rough map on her wrist device. The council has fragments of data from previous encounters. Their ships follow the same basic design. Their bioweapon systems will be near the center of the vessel. The shuttle attached to the mothership's hull using magnetic clamps. They cut through the outer layer and entered dark corridors that pulsed with strange light. The Harbingers themselves were tall, thin beings with gray skin that seemed almost transparent. They moved with unsettling grace. The human team avoided them when possible and moved silently through the ship. It's too easy, whispered one team member as they approached the central section. Why aren't there more guards? They don't expect internal threats, Moon replied. They've never been successfully boarded before, and they believe their bioweapons make them untouchable. They reached a vast chamber filled with tanks of swirling green liquid, the bioweapon production facility. Moon studied the alien technology. Though advanced, its purpose was clear. They engineered their weapons too perfectly, Moon told her team as they moved between the tanks. They never developed resistance to their own bioagents. They never needed to. Moon understood now. The Harbingers had become so reliant on their perfect weapons that they never considered they might be used against them. They had no defenses against their own creations. The team worked quickly, injecting the human-modified antibodies into the main distribution system. The antibodies would bind with the bioweapon compounds, changing their genetic targeting. System reconfiguration at 50%, reported a team member, watching the display on his device. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the ship. Harbinger. Voices echoed through the corridors. They've detected us, Moon said. We need to finish and get out. The team worked faster as the sounds of approaching Harbingers grew louder. The reconfiguration reached 100%, just as the first. Harbingers entered the chamber. It's done, Moon said. Activate it. A team member pressed the final sequence. The modified bioweapon began pumping through the ship's ventilation system. The effect on the Harbingers was immediate. They collapsed where they stood, their semi-transparent bodies convulsing. Let's move, Moon ordered. The team fought their way back to the shuttle, facing less resistance as the bioweapon spread through the ship. From the command vessel, Commander Park and the council leaders watched as the Harbinger. Mothership's lights flickered. Then, one by one, the surrounding Harbinger ships began to drift. They're connected to the mothership somehow, Director Lee realized. What happens to the mothership affects them all. The remaining Harbinger vessels began to retreat. Their perfect formation broke apart as they fled toward the galactic rim. We can destroy them all now, Representative Choi said, his eyes gleaming. They're vulnerable, but Commander Park shook her head. No. Those that surrender will be allowed to leave. The council leaders looked at her in shock. After what they've done, they've shown no mercy to our worlds. We are not them, Commander Park said simply. That is why we will win in the end. 3 months later, the Great Hall of the Galactic Council was filled once again. This time, the ceremony to welcome Earth proceeded without interruption. But much had changed. Earth's flag, blue with the outline of all continents in gold, rose to join the other council members. But a new banner hung in the center of the hall, the symbol of the Defense Alliance with Earth's flag prominent at its center. We welcome not just a new member today, announced the council leader, but the leaders of our united defense. The humans have proven themselves not just strong but wise. Captain Moon stood with her team, now heroes across council space. Their actions had saved countless lives. Young aliens from many worlds approached them for autographs, a human custom that had quickly spread. In schools across council space, teachers were already adding human history to their lessons. Children played new games, pretending to be human heroes battling cosmic threats. Ambassador Kim stood next to Director Lee, watching the celebration. Did you ever imagine it would turn out this way? he asked, "when you first visited their world?" Director Lee smiled. "The universe works in strange ways. We spent thousands of years fearing the return of the Harbingers. All that time, our salvation was developing on a small blue planet, thinking they were alone." Ambassador Kim nodded. "The universe is vast and often hostile," he said thoughtfully, "but perhaps it has finally found its guardians in these remarkable beings from a small blue planet." The celebration continued late into the night. Human music played alongside alien harmonies. Foods from all worlds were shared. Species that had once looked at each other with suspicion now stood together, united by a common experience. And at the center of it all stood the humans, not the strongest, not the most advanced, but perhaps the most adaptable species the galaxy had ever known. They had faced extinction on their own world multiple times and survived. They had faced the trials and passed. They had faced the greatest threat to the galaxy and found a way to win. They were humans, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The end.